Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of my in-depth review of the new rulebook, Warhammer 40K 7th Edition Rulebook. Previously, when I went over a few of my first impressions, I did forget to mention that vehicles are going to be a little bit harder to kill in this edition. That's one of the big changes as well. Vehicles are going to be harder to kill, which I'll be going over the table later, but vehicles, just to mention, harder to kill, for sure. So as I mentioned in the previous one as well, in this rulebook, things are very finite and they're listed and there's specific steps, and I really like that. So the next phase that we're going to be covering is the shooting phase, and as I mentioned, there's a specific section right here that says the exact steps of a shooting phase. Number 1, nominate unit to shoot. Number 2, choose the target. Now this is the big part. Number 3, this is the really big change, is choose a weapon. Select a weapon. Number 4, roll to hit. Number 5, roll to wound. Number 6, allocate wounds, remove casualties if they fail their saves. 7, select another weapon. And repeat this process. So, the big change in this edition versus 6th edition is that if squads contain multiple weapons, what you do is you choose the squad who's going to be shooting, and you choose the squad that they're shooting at, and all the weapons from that squad have to go towards the new squad unless it has split fire, which a change as well as this is they automatically pass their leadership. There's no leadership test anymore. They just do it and it happens first. It has to be the first weapon that you choose. It has to be the split fired weapon. But so now you choose. Let's say you have a squad of tactical marines, all of them are bolters except for one plasma gun. You choose these tactical marines are shooting at those guys, and then you choose which weapon first, and that dictates the range and the models being removed. In the previous edition, there was this really big ambiguity about what happens if this gun can hit them, who can you remove. So now you just do one weapon at a time, know the range, and you just do the same process one weapon at a time. So you do all the bolter fire, to hits, to wounds, and then you can remove casualties up to the farthest range of the bolter fire. And then you can do the the gun, and then you do the same thing for them. So that is the big change in 7th edition compared to 6th edition. Other than that, basically the shooting phase is the same. The shooting phase is the shooting phase is the shooting phase. Pretty much none of the guns really changed in what they can do. Roll to hits are the same as before. Roll to wound is the same as you can before. Snapshots are the same. Once again, Games Workshop is trying to clarify things. So they did implicitly mention for snapshots that if a model is forced to make snapshots rather than shoot normally, then its ballistic skill is counted as being 1 for the purposes of those shots. But it also mentions that, a little further, if a special rule doesn't specifically state that it affects snapshots, then the snapshot is resolved at ballistic skill 1. So there you go. So I don't know about the Tau Codex, but if you double check the Tau Codex, if it doesn't say implicitly that it applies to snapshots, include snapshots, it doesn't count for snapshots. So that's a great clarification there. I really do like that. As I said, there are some great clarifications in this book. I found this almost like an FAQ. Roll to wound, same thing. AP, same thing. Instant death, same thing. If you hit a model, if a model suffers a wound to at least double its toughness, instant killed. Then there's the wound pool. And you remove, of course, the same ways you did before. In 6th edition, you remove from the closest model to the squad. It's always to the squad. It doesn't matter which gun is being fired. It is to the squad. And, of course, you can take... the next part is instant death, of course. Now, it actually says, once again, types of saving throws. And it does implicitly mention, in most of the rules, no saving throws will be allowed. So obviously you can negate all these ones that I'm about to mention. But types of saving throws. There are armor saves, which can be negated by AP weapons. There are invulnerable saves, which can be taken pretty much regardless. Nothing can really go through invuls, other than like strength D weapons. And cover saves. And the same rules apply. If at least 25% of the squad is obscured in any way, they get a minimum of a 5+ cover save. But of course, it matters about the closest, as it did in the previous edition. And that's about it. And instead of shooting, you can also run. Same rules effect as before. Roll d6, determine your run distance. They can move up to that distance, and they can assault. They're not slow by difficult terrain, they cannot make their assault. That's the shooting phase. not much change there. Next goes into weapons. The book goes into weapons. And once again, the weapons section is basically identical to the previous one, weapons. They've now included like primary weapons for the giant tanks like Bane Blades and bombs, bombing runs. Rapid fire weapons are the same as before, salvo weapons same as before, pistols same as before. So that's it. That's very quick. We just went through the shooting phase. Now the assault phase. The assault phase is once again very, very similar to the previous edition. You declare your charge. You can't charge anything that's out of sight. Overwatch happens. Overwatch once again implicitly mentions that it takes all the same, you know, the same things as line of sight, needed, bunch of other things. And Overwatch cannot cause morale checks or pinning tests. Any shots fired as Overwatch can only count snapshots. The wall of fires, the wall of death still is in this codex, or sorry, in this rulebook. So for the assault phase summary, once again, there's a summary, step by step. There's the charge subphase, which is declare charge, resolve Overwatch, roll charge range, 2d6 unless otherwise stated. Charge move, declare next charge, or finish charge subphase. And then there's the fight subphase. Choose a combat, fight close combat, determine assault results, choose next combat, or finish assault phase. So you roll your charge range, move your guys as normal. Charging through difficult terrain has changed. If you charge through difficult terrain, rather than rolling 3d6 and take the two lowest, which typically resulted in, I believe, a roll of 4, distance of 4, now it's simply roll 2d6 minus 2 inches. So an average roll of 7, which becomes 5, but you can roll a 12, which becomes a 10. That's pretty nice. It removes the ability to roll 12s, but it really does increase your chances of getting into combat, which is nice. So that has changed. Charging through difficult terrain has changed. Charging through dangerous terrain, they each have to take a dangerous terrain check. If you don't have grenades, you forfeit your initiative. That's basically it. Another of the big changes, that's the charge subphase. Then there's the fight subphase. And the biggest change that I noticed for the fight subphase is challenges. In the previous codex, if you overkilled your opponent in a challenge, it didn't affect the rest of the members of the squad. However, in this one, it actually mentions it implicitly. Besides that, pretty much everything else is the same, but now it actually, where is it? Directing attacks, morale, but now implicitly mentions, I don't remember where it was, but it implicitly mentions that it actually counts and you can continue to allocate them on the squad, which is nice. I think that's later in the challenge section. I don't remember there being challenges in this part. That's basically it. So it's the same thing. Weapon skill to hit is the same exact chart. To wound, same chart. Once again, it affects models. The same as shooting, closest. And that's about it. Yeah, so that's the big, and then once again for consolidation, sweeping advances, same thing, but you cannot consolidate into another combat. That was a rumor that would happen in this book, but it's just a rumor and ended up being false. Yeah. Same for multiple combats. Morale checks, same as before. Exact same way. Insane heroism. Nothing changed there. As I said, I do find myself saying a lot has changed. Sorry, not a lot has changed in this book. Regrouping. If at least 25% of the unit models are still alive, they can regroup. They can regroup with less than 25%, but then it has to be insane heroism. Otherwise, it falls back. And this is for challenges. You can count the extra wounds towards the squad, so that's pretty cool. I like that. Next, that's the end of the phases. Now it gets to unit types. So we'll go quickly through them. There's infantry. Infantry have not changed whatsoever. Right? They're pretty much the staple of 40K. They're not going to change too much. There's bikes and jet bikes. They have armor steed special rule, which is just they increase their toughness by 1. It's already in their things. They have Hammer Wrath, Jink, Relentless, very bulky. Same things before. They ignore terrain. Artillery act pretty much the exact same way as before. Jump units, they act the same way as before. If they finish their movement or start their movement in difficult terrain, they take a dangerous terrain check, etc. Jetpack units, same thing, pretty much the exact same page as previous edition. Beasts, beasts can move 12 inches in the movement phase. They're not slowed by difficult terrain, even when charging, so they don't get the -2. And automatically pass dangerous terrain checks. Beasts fall back 3d6. And they have fleet. We'll go over fleet later in the special rules. I don't remember seeing fleet. I wonder if it changed. Let me just look quickly. Let's see. I don't think it changed. Fleet. Fleet might have been one of those big ones that I don't think it changed at all. I don't remember any of the special rules really changing. No. Reroll run distances. Cavalry. Same thing. Monstrous creatures. Monstrous creatures are the same as before. The only change now is flying monstrous creatures. Flying monstrous creatures did get 2 changes. There's 2 changes to flying monstrous creatures. Number 1 is if they're flying. If they're there's 2 types of flying. There's gliding, and then there is swooping. Swooping is the flying across the table. Gliding is acting like a jump infantry. Now, in the previous edition, if you got shot at, every time you got hit, you had to roll a grounding check. On a 3+, you're okay. On a 1 or 2, you crash to the ground and probably take a wound. That has changed in this edition. It has changed now to, it says right here, if a flying monster creature that is swooping suffers 1 or more wounds, suffers 1 or more unsaved wounds during any phase, it must take a grounding check at the end of the phase. There you go. So now, it used to be that every time you hit the flying, hive tyrant, he had to take a grounding check and he'd fail and crash to the ground. Now it's only if you wounded him does he have to take the check at the end of the phase. So you can't basically benefit from him getting grounded in the shooting phase. You can assault him after that, but it really does prevent the Tau from marker lighting him repeatedly and forcing him to the ground and then lighting him up at full ballistic skill. No matter what happens during that shooting phase, you can only shoot him at ballistic skill 1. However, another big change is that it removes one. Unfortunately, this change removes some of the good tactics of the Hive Tyrant with wings. Is the turn that you change from from gliding to swooping, so making go from a flying monster creature to a jump infantry monster creature, you can't assault. You cannot assault that turn, which is really weird because that's the best part about making him into a jump infantry is then you go and jump into close combat and rip apart people. So now you can get your guy over there, but once you go to jump infantry, you give your opponent a full turn of shooting at him before he can get into close combat. That's a little weird to me. I don't know. And the way it says that is, it actually says that back in, it's not in that specific phase, it's in the assault phase. Sorry, not the assault phase, the charge phase page, where it says, turning to train. I remember it said that. It's like disallowed charges. Choose a combat, choose initial target. Declare a charge. Alright, sorry. Some units are not allowed from charging, and it says right there, the unit is a flying monster creature that has changed flight modes during this turn. You can't assault. That unfortunately sucks. Besides that, they're basically the same. And then they go into Gargantuan and flying Gargantuan creatures. They're the same as the Escalation book and the same as Apocalypse. Now we get into vehicles. Now vehicles, as I mentioned, they're harder to kill in this edition, so that's actually good. You're going to go back to, I think we're going to go back to seeing a lot of vehicles on the table. That means GW can sell more models, and that's good for them. And you're not going to lose First Blood as easily if you're an Imperial Guard player or a Space Marine player. You might have immobilized vehicles, but you're not going to probably lose your vehicles as quickly. You can't get. It's very hard to lose your vehicle to a pot shot. And it has to be by an AP weapon. So basically, vehicles are almost the same way in all ways as they were before, except for the vehicle damage table. Now, this is the part that saves them. From now on, if you pen a vehicle, you roll in the vehicle penetration table, +1 for an AP2 weapon, +2 for an AP1 weapon. But now, on a 1 to 3 people, crew shaken. Used to be 1 to 2. Now on a 4, crew stunned, so can't move or shoot. On a 5, weapon destroyed, and on a 6, immobilized. So, but you're asking, where's the explosion? 7+ is now the explosion. So, you can't actually blow up a vehicle in one shot unless it's an AP2 or better weapon, or if the vehicle is open-topped, because it's also +1 for open-topped. And yeah, so that alone, that's going to keep your vehicles alive for longer, because on average now, you're going to get immobilized maybe, but it's going to be very hard to lose a vehicle very quickly unless you're being shot at by a las cannon or something. Rockets and missiles are going to be really nerfed in this edition because they're only AP 3. So they're going to pen you, and they might be able to destroy you via pen, 3 pens, but you'll probably get cover. If there's night fighting, everyone gets stealth. So yeah, that'll be interesting. And besides that, pretty much the same things apply. Same thing with squadrons. Transports, once again, identical in pretty much every way that I've noticed. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, leave something in the comment section down below. Effective damage on passengers. When a transport sustains damage, it can also have an effect on its passengers, even if they disembark, as described below. Oh, it's the same thing as they did before, yeah. If it blows up, for example, they take damage. Flyers, same exact as before, so I'm not going to go into them. Basically, I'm trying to cover the differences in this book. If you're familiar with the game, Warhammer 6th edition, I'm not going to go over too much. Same. Chariots act the same way as before. So as I said, not a whole lot is changed in these types. Open-top vehicles, they are assault vehicles as before, +1 to damage. Heavy vehicles, fast vehicles, skimmers, walkers. Yep. Walkers, still Hammer Wrath. Tanks, same thing. So basically that's it. And then, of course, they go into the super heavy vehicles, and the super heavy vehicle section is basically identical as Escalation and Apocalypse. Then super heavy walkers like the Stompa, super heavy flyers. I didn't know there were though. Oh yeah, I guess. And then there are vehicle upgrades: Dozer Blade, extra armor, 100 killer missiles, searchlight, smoke launchers. That's it. And next we go to characters, people. So characters. Right now I'm already on page 101. This is good. We're halfway through the book after after 2 versions. This is good. Characters, same thing as before. Lookout sirs act the same way. And this is about the challenges, accepting a challenge. Basically, in a heroic stand, a unit that consists of only a single character, i.e. Hive Tyrant, cannot refuse a challenge. Makes sense. It does say here, combatant slain. If a character that is involved in a challenge slays his opponent, each excess wound inflicted by the victor is then allocated one at a time to the nearest enemy model that is locked in the combat. So as I said, it actually now bleeds over and spills over to the opponents. That's cool. Outside forces. Round 2, I think, goes back to Glorious Intervention. Same thing as before. Cool. And that's it. That's unit types. And that's basically it. That's all the rules. Now we get into... Now, the cool thing about this book, I do actually like this. It separates really well. So now it gets into battlefield terrain. And now it goes over all the terrain types. Once again, really nothing has changed. We'll go quickly, because it's not very much. It just is like battlefield terrain, talks a little about each of the battlefield terrain types: open ground, difficult terrain. Moving into difficult terrain, roll 2d6, take the highest. Assaulting the difficult terrain, 2d6, -2. Ruins, 4+ cover save, regardless of whether or not they're 25% obscured. Dangerous terrain, impassable terrain. Battlefield debris, goes over the building damage table. which is basically the same as before. And that's it. So I'll probably end it here because we just passed 20 minutes. But we've been covering a lot of the book, and as I said, I just keep saying the same thing, same as before. Not a lot has changed in this edition, as you can see. Some things, like vehicles, are going to be harder to kill. That's the main thing of this battle. Challenges are just as annoying as before, but at least, you know what, they'll bleed over combat, so if your annoying opponent challenges your Hive Tyrant, you'll kill a few extra guys a turn. That's pretty good. That's nice. And it's also great for wound allocation, for combat resolution purposes. You actually get to kill more. So that the next round, when they come in now, they get to hammer you less, and that's pretty cool. So I like that. I really do like that change. I'm not a big fan of the challenges. And I like the fact that vehicles are a little more survivable. So those are 2 good points. And next we'll go to the next section, which is, I'm going to be skimming over very quickly. So the next video I'm going to be covering preparing for your battle. As I said, I'm just going to go through this entire video, book, section by section. But next we're getting to the really interesting stuff. It will be all the next video will probably have the missions. And 6 of them are the same, 6 of them are new, and there's also the handy dandy new tactical objectives, which are pretty cool, which basically a lot of you guys at home, it means we should be creating our own objectives. I'm going to make some tutorials in the near future, I think, about how to make some objective markers. That'd be cool. Maybe some quick and simple ways. That'd be a good video. So please like the video, comment in the comment section down below, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and part 2 of my in-depth review of the rulebooks. I'm just going to go through it part by part. And there'll probably be 2 more parts. The final one will cover psychic powers and stuff, and then I should go do a review on each of the other books as well. So this will probably be a multiple. One on Dark Millennium, one on Galaxy at War. So stay tuned for more parts. I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, stay tuned for more. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.